I'ma ride for the squad, light up tires in the hearse. I've been on the vibe, kinda hard to describe. I'm in between, I'm good and it's fine, but I'm tired of the grind. Then I come alive in the night to realize I'm in the middle of the time of my life. I'm never so packed for the stack, never lied on the rap. Got a bag from the way that I write it. Queen looking Tyson, through that I survived, doing 80 to the house. Then I hit him to the sky, changed haters on a tirade. Talking to the grip in the face, be still, let that hate stuff fade. We all want the same, we all want a meal in the safe. I wanna live like I'm trying to reach enlightenment. Trail spill from my lips, feel bent from the bit. Take a sip till I pass out. Try and get grit, but it don't make sense. Cause you can lose life on this fast route. Yeah, turn thoughts to a cash cow. I might flip that to the glass house. I don't need the accolades, I'm in love with the chase. I just wanna eat, save a spot at the table. Beats with the slap, pin myself on the map. You long with the wind, but we knowing that it's cap. 5-hour flights, couple nights at the flat to be.
Welcome to the Ultimate Entertainment Solutions Show, presented by Ultimate Entertainment Solutions. The show where we dive deep into popular topics, equipment, and emerging technologies and trends. Hope you're ready. DJ Spin It.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? I am DJ Ultimate, aka Chris Allen, the owner of Ultimate Entertainment Solutions, and I would like to welcome each and every one of you to another episode of the Ultimate Entertainment Solutions podcast. Today, I have not one but two guests with us today. Y'all already know DJ NuffCed. What up, NuffCed?
What's going on? How we doing?
And then we have Jay and Shayna of 2P Studios. What up?
Hey everybody, how's it going?
So listen, this episode is we're gonna give you a little insight of them. They do photography and videography. So like I said, when I started this, I wanted to bring in vendors and I wanted to get their perspective on the industry and then how we affect them and then how they affect us and then how we bridge the gap to mend relationships and how we all work together. So on this episode, I wanted to talk to them and kind of dispel some of the myths and see some of the things that are true that as DJs we hear when it comes to photography and videography. So these two, I just want to give them the floor for a little bit because we've already talked to NuffCed on a couple other podcasts and let him give his story. So I want to let them take the time, let them introduce themselves, tell their background, how long they've been doing this, and why they got started into photography, videography. So Jay and Shayna, the floor is yours.
Hey, so how's everybody doing? Hopefully okay this evening. For us, it was simple. I started about 10, 11 years ago professionally in the photography business. I've been doing photography and videography for probably about 20 years or so. In the grand scheme of things, I had my twin boys back in September of 2012, and that's kind of what triggered a lot of things. I saw myself needing family photos and reaching out to friends and wanting to have that, and kind of reignited the fire of getting back into the business. Picked up the camera once and haven't been able to put it down since. Over the course of time, of course, you grow. I started with cars, doing work for magazines in Japan while I was stationed there with the military. Transitioned over to a few states, stateside, Virginia, mainly North Carolina after that. And while I was there, I met my wife. She kind of joined the team afterwards and kind of just dove right in. I've been mentoring her and kind of teaching her the ropes, but really she's way more creative than I am. So a lot of that fusion kind of created what 2P Studios is today. Working in the industry, I've come along a lot of great DJs, DJ Ultimate being one of them. And really, like, in our business, in a line of work, when it comes to the photo and the video portion of it, we depend on a lot on you guys and making sure that our chemistry is there. If it is not there, a lot of times you'll see photographers struggle with lighting. You'll see photographers struggle with equipment, with cameras, because either they're not prepared or, our lighting systems mix because, there's no good communication with videographers, Yeah. Audio makes a really big piece of any kind of, video film that you put out there. If the audio is not there, it's just not going to work out. And if that chemistry is not there with DJs and as a team, same thing is going to happen. It's just going to buckle. you're not gonna get good quality audio. You're not gonna get good quality video because none of that
Or
stuff is right. Because none of that stuff is in sync. But
yeah.
but I mean, Shayna could probably tell you we actually just finished doing a wedding in Virginia not long ago, where that was like is an outdoor event, a lot of noise from the outside, a lot of different lighting changes. It was towards the evening. All of that stuff was taken into effect, and honestly, the DJ was what really helped us out in a lot of the situations that we kind of faced over there. So
Yep.
but I'll let her kind of talk about that a little bit and about herself too.
Well, I was always voluntold, never volunteered, voluntold to model. And then eventually, at the time I was working at the bank, I was overworked, underpaid, said nobody ever, right?
Right.
And then I was like, well, I really enjoy doing this with you. Let's see if we can do it. Ran a budget, and then we were like, all right, cool, we can do this. And then I went ahead and did it full time, and I've been doing it full time for 3 years now. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the portrait side. I do enjoy doing weddings. And yeah, it's really great to be able to do this as not just a family, but work really well together as a team.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, Jay, you brought up a lot of good points, and we're going to get into those a little bit later. Right now, I want to talk about, so 2022 has passed, right? It's already passed. We're close to February of 2023, but we're still, not too far into 2023. So what was some of your trials and tribulations of 2022 that you saw?
Honestly, speaking on venues, everybody was recovering from COVID. So everybody was afraid of, contact precautions, afraid of touching things or, what equipment was being touched by whom amongst the people that worked the floor and vendors, right? As far as the people themselves, faces are unique to every individual. So when you're doing videos and photos, like that really is what brings a lot of the uniqueness to every gig that we do. So having masks or having to constantly have alcohol for everybody to wash their hands or handing out all of that equates to money that as a company we have to spend just to make sure everyone's safe. So that was a little bit of a hurdle for us during the year. Appointments, everybody had to have an appointment. It couldn't be just groups of different clients just coming in randomly. You had to segregate everyone by appointments and studio time, sanitizing everything, right? Spraying everything with like Lysol or what have you. Are you vaccinated? Are you not vaccinated? Is the company staff vaccinated? Am I going to be safe as a client of yours? And having to reassure every person that came through the door that it was a safe environment and that they're going to get what they needed, regardless of what COVID presented to everybody. So that was definitely a struggle.
What about the equipment aspect? Did you have any issues with getting equipment?
Oh, absolutely. There's deliveries. You had to order stuff way, way in advance. Because of the trucker, issues that we have with, with truck drivers. Deliveries were happening way less for us for photos that we would order for clients for
overseas
big packages.
Oh my gosh, that was a nightmare.
Right.
We order some stuff from overseas, from Italy, from Germany, some of the things that we offer appliances in. We want to always bring the best product to our clients that we offer and the stuff that we offer. So there's stuff that we can't get in the US. We have to get shipped overseas. To give that experience to the client, and because of that, oh man, like sometimes it was a month and a half.
3 months was the most I saw, and it's supposed to be 4 to 6 week turnaround time. Good luck explaining that to a client.
Exactly. And
we got lucky. Like our clients understood that because of everything that was done in the news. But still, like you still want to make that experience, short, sweet, and available to the client because it's their experience. They want to hold on to that, and it's still fresh. So you kind of want to still live it as long as you can.
And keeping communication good too.
Yeah.
Right.
That was really important.
Right. Well, I asked that because as DJs, we talk about operational costs, and clients ask us, why some DJs cost more than others, and I'm sure you experience the same thing as videographers and photographers, and so it's some similarities, within the industry of vendors, you guys face some of the same challenges as we do, far as equipment, and like you said, in 2022, is we still dealt with COVID and the segregation, and you can only have so many people in the venue at one time, and everything that we had to deal with. So it was just a kind of interesting piece that each vendor had to deal with the same thing. Um, so what are you looking forward to in 2023 as we're kind of moving out? COVID's still around, of course, but weddings and events are picking up. People are wanting to do more and move around more. So what are you looking forward to?
Honestly, something that we noticed too with 22 that pushed us into what we have now with 23 is because of the segregation of all the businesses and all the limitations legally by some of the states. A lot of photographers and videographers shut down their business, right? But the demand is still there. So 2023 for us is trying to recapture that, and get the clients back into their routine of their seasonal photos or their seasonal items that they typically get on every year, and trying to get them the availability. Because right now, because of that big shortage last year, how many people quit the business, there's now an overabundance of clients, and they're all looking at similar dates. They want to book us, about the same time, and it's the wedding seasons or the birthdays that all happen like around all at the same time, but you only have those select few, right?
Right.
And you also have to, battle on style, right? So everybody likes a certain style, and they pick a certain photographer or videographer for that style, which also even funnels that even a little bit more. So you're battling scheduling versus the demand and trying to really make that client happy on that end. And that's definitely probably going to present some challenges this year.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know I dealt with that as well. I'm pretty sure what about you, Cedric? Did you deal with that, like that date, was the hot date. Everybody wanted that same date, and you're like, I'm already booked, and it constantly had to say that over and over and over, and you're referring it out, and
All the time. All the time. But what people don't understand is you deal with somebody who spoke to you 4 months in advance. You might deal with somebody who spoke to you 8 months in advance. And to tell them this date has been booked, whether they understand it or not, this is a business, It's gotta
yeah,
take that one on the chin and let
right,
it roll. But yeah, that's something that happens all the time, especially around springtime.
Hmm.
Oh
I know
yeah.
for photographers, y'all guys get it a lot. Spring pictures, whether it's dealing with a school, college, high school, church. You know what I'm saying? Just family pictures at the park because it's gonna be beautiful.
right.
Yeah, we have to deal with that. It's not exactly the easiest thing because you want the business, but they got to understand if they didn't make it, what I'm saying, on time. What can I tell you? You know what I'm saying? Like I can refer you to my friend DJ Ultimate.
I don't
Yeah.
think they want me taking a picture.
And it's funny you should bring that, right? So like you guys, network as DJs, and that community has to be there really for everybody to do well. For us as photographers, it's the same thing. There's a certain quality that we want to put out to our clients, that we always look at each other, and we do it all the time. Like there's a certain standard you want to deliver, and that's what the clients want. And a lot of times, if you don't have the data available, having that other photographer that either has a similar style or at a minimum knows how to deal with your clients the same way that you do, so that they can like deliver on it and are reliable on that delivery, like that's huge, and it's not always available.
Yeah.
Another thing I was going to add too is like, instead of saying to a prospect client, like, hey, sorry, I'm not unavailable that day, you're giving them a solution to their problem. I'm sorry, I'm not available. However, I do have a professional reference that I can refer to you. And, that speaks volumes. I mean, you might not be available for that one event, but they'll remember, hey, I had a problem and they solved it. I'm going to go back to them the next time, and maybe they'll be available
Exactly.
the next time. It could be an open
Exactly.
door for, another opportunity.
Exactly. And that's also how you build up your industry and that community around you. I mean, that's what we're trying to do in our area. If I'm not available, I'm quick to blast it out to, hey, unfortunately, I'm unavailable, but here are these individuals, you know, highly recommended. Please, I mean, and when I tell you, I give them their information, so I give them their phone number, their website,
Mhm.
Instagram, every social media handle that they have that they provided me. I pass it along to them so they don't have to search it. You know what I mean? You know, like they have it at their hand. So, you know, I try to pass along what I can't take to other DJs that I know that can do it. So
Believe it or not, people don't realize we're out there. You know what I'm saying? They
yeah,
don't know who's the photographer. They don't know who's the DJ. The first thing they do is ask Facebook. You know,
Mhm.
so
exactly,
and then when you do that, depending on where you ask, you've got 150 names that's gonna pop up.
Yep.
Yep.
And now they become, oh my God, who do I choose? You know what I'm saying? So they look at the name that sound the coolest and
Mhm.
just go from there. You know,
exactly.
I mean that's exactly what happens. That's
It's
exactly
true.
what happens.
Mhm.
Exactly. Big shout out
That
to my homeboy DJ Reed. Like he said, he said he's a benefactor. So, you know, we try to look out for each other.
not only that, but picking up the phone, putting your phone number there. I've seen, and in personal experience as well, putting your phone number versus saying, "Here's my booking link." It,
Exactly.
you need to get to know and build that relationship with your client. You know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
You're right. You're right. 100%. So we're gonna get into a little bit more into what we came today. So there's a lot of myths about DJs and photographers, right? Um, and there's seem to be a lot of turmoil sometimes between DJs and photographers and videographers, especially if you go into these groups, and you know, trying to again, I think the industry has to grow with everybody. So when I say everybody, it's videographers, photographers, it's event planners, you know, the officiants, it's everybody. Because as you guys mentioned earlier, you know, if somebody is not a team player or if somebody is not, you know, helping out, then overall the event does not is not as good as it typically could be because you're battling somebody that should be helping you.
Mhm.
So as you know, we all network. You know, somebody called me and they need a photographer or a videographer. I refer you guys along with others. So, um, and that culture needs to continue to grow because it's, you know, that's again, it's an industry. It's not just referring DJs. It's not just referring uh you know, photographers. If somebody's like, you know, if I'm the first stop on a client's list and they need a wedding planner, well, hey, I know a wedding planner that I've used and I know that they're not going to let the client down. So hey, here's a wedding planner that I've used and I know they're great, you know. So you know, we got to kind of change the trend of the industry. So the biggest thing is I hear a lot of DJs with the lighting, you know. So we hear a lot of topics about the derby lights, and if you know, for the people who are not really familiar with the derby lights, those are the lights that put off the dots or the lasers, whatever you have it, and they kind of put the dots and stuff and all that on the, you know, on the dance floor. Sometimes they get on the dress of the clients and whatnot, and they get on the suits. So from a photographer and a videographer standpoint, how does that hurt your guys' picture, or does that even bother you? Like, does that mess with your product? Like, give us your input on that.
Like any marriage, communication is always key, right?
Mhm.
So in situations like that, I think a lot of the times the downfall is not so much the lights as much as it is the communication with the client. Like during that phase of preparation leading to the event, just talking that out. There are some lights that will hurt, like especially nowadays we have a lot of mirrorless cameras that can, if the light directly hits the sensor, it could damage the sensor. That's the biggest thing out of this whole thing, right?
Mhm.
For DJs, that doesn't really affect you guys much because you guys just are providing the lighting. You're
Right.
providing the mood, the ambience for the entire event, right? But I think if it's something that is talked about prior to that, hey, this is the equipment that I'm bringing, and on the side of the videographer and the photographers, they educate themselves with what you both have on the table, then it can be as easy as, you know what, maybe I shouldn't stand facing those lights. Maybe I can stand in the opposite way and maybe guide the bride and groom or whomever's on the floor to maybe stand a specific way and meet everybody kind of meets in the middle, right?
Right.
I've worked with you, Chris. Oh man, so many years already.
Right.
And
Right.
the chemistry's always been there, right? We've never had any issues with that particular thing, right? Part of it is me knowing what you have in equipment wise. I know that you're gonna have your gobos or you're gonna have your specific, your stingers out on whatever size event you're looking at, and all the lasers might be, going. If I know for a fact my equipment cannot be bumped against that kind of lighting, a simple position change solves that problem, right?
Right.
But it's that communication that really needs to happen prior to the event, for that to make it. And now, yes, there is the stumbling block of, hey, the client didn't give me the information for the DJ, so now I'm only meeting the DJ the day of the event. So then now what, right? Have a communication, have a little conversation. As soon as you start and you're setting up, DJs always get there early for the events, right? You have so much to set up for. Well, guess what? So do the photographers and videographers, because they have to scout the area, especially if it's the first time. Shouldn't be the first time.
Right.
But sometimes they'll have to scout the area for the good positions of the good shots and whatnot. That's something that can be talked about right there. And then, hey, what do you have as a photographer? I have these shots that I want to set up in this area. The bride and groom dance, mom and dad, groom and mom, and everybody that has to be in there, right? You can set up your shots way beforehand. That's all stuff that you have on a list already if you prep right. For the DJ side, hey, some of that lighting actually makes our shots that much more interesting. Like the composition, it really just brings it about. This one, it was 2018. We shot the Air Force Ball down at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base.
Right.
And some of the best shots I have are of the stage lit up by the gobos, and the laser lights are all up in the top. And I couldn't have created that just with my own lighting alone had it not been because everything that was going on in the center floor, right? Like your setup of that stage was, like I said, it was immaculate. It was perfect. That really, I cannot tell you how many times I've used that photo of the stage, but it was based on our communication and our setup, right? It was completely complementary. Now, had I been somebody who doesn't talk to anybody, the complete opposite. Sometimes you have photographers that may be new or that don't really talk to many people. They're not as extroverted. Then you have to figure things out on the fly, and you might not end up with what you actually need. For the video side of the house, same thing. I mean, I forgot, I've lost count how many DJs I've asked, hey, can I plug in my audio recorder so that I can get your mastered audio to my recorder, and therefore bring that to the client exactly how they heard it the day of the event, right? Clean audio. If you can't reproduce that over, a boom mic or a lavalier mic, coming from the chest of the room like that, you can't reproduce that, right?
Right.
Or you're gonna create a ton of work on the post-production end for the videographer or the editing room, when you can simply just have the conversation with the DJ. Hey, can I use your auxiliary output or one of your main outputs just to record everything you're putting out, right?
Exactly.
You guys already provide the bride and the groom with microphones, professional audio right there on an instant. All you got to do is record it, right? And then push it over to post. So I think the relationship between the videographer, the photographer, and the DJ, especially at wedding events or even corporate events, it is super, super important because of that right there.
Right.
The hurdles only really come in when you guys don't communicate, right? When a videographer, photographer, and a DJ are not on the same page. And then you get into, like you said, there's like the animosity. Oh, the DJ's in my way. Oh, the photographer's in my way. Hey, the videographer, you shouldn't be there. Like, my stuff is on the floor. You should probably be paying attention to my cables. You're going to mess up the event because it's a team effort. And if you mess it up for the DJ, guess what? Bride and groom are going to feel it. That corporate head, that CEO is going to feel it. And really, I mean, they're probably not going to care for the photos or the video anyway at that point. Really, you mess stuff up at that point. So, like, it really goes in depth, and it really is a team effort when it comes to all these things that are that big in nature. So yeah, it really, those are the things that I can honestly tell you I see all the time.
Exactly. I can't tell you. So, and I speak for myself, and I'll let DJ NuffCed, speak for himself. So, I know for me, uh, when I go to events, I always try to find the photographer and the videographer if they have one, and I try to talk to them before the event. If I hadn't had a chance to talk to them prior to the event, typically what I do is I send them an email prior to the event, and I get it. Their schedules are crazy, so sometimes it slips through the crack, and they're not able to respond. Typically, they'll respond as they'll say, "Hey, appreciate you reaching out. I don't really need anything. Can't wait to work with you. See you at the event." So when I get to the event, what I like to do, I will have a timeline for each and everybody there. The coordinator, myself, the photographer, the videographer. Because granted, the coordinator should have their own, but I still, just as a courtesy, I print one out, and it's typically with my notes on it. Uh, my notes are for me, but I still like to let them know what's going on in my head, so they kind of have some kind of insight of what I'm going to be doing throughout the night. Because the more they know what I'm going to do, the more in sync they'll be with me. So I will offer it to them. It's up to them if they want it or not. If they don't take it, that's fine. So typically they'll take it, and I'll give them a timeline. And like I said, it has my notes. I always let them know, hey, I would do my best to try to give you ample time to set up before an event. So whether it be the first dance, I'm gonna try to tell them, hey, we got the first dance coming up, before I announce it, and let them get in place. Whether it's the father daughter dance, I try to give them heads up. The father daughter dance is coming up. If they want to change cameras, or if they want to do something, and then typically what I do, because I ran into a few photographers that said that the derby lights. So since then I've stopped using derby lights. That's just a personal choice that I've made, and I just go either wash effects or the gobos now. So what I do now when we're in formalities, that way they don't have to try to readjust camera lighting and positioning. I don't use any lighting for the formalities anymore. So I just kind of let it be the ambient with my up lights and stuff, and then once they get their lighting, their camera set up for that, it's done. They don't have to readjust or anything. So I tried to make it as friendly as I can for them, for the events. Now, when we get into partying, of course, I have my wash effects and my gobos. They're going around scanning the room. That's a little different because we're in a party, and of course the uplights they're in sync, and they're going crazy. So that's a little bit different because now I do have to set that mood for partying, and
Right.
I can't just leave it dead. So
Right.
but I think at that point we all kind of have that understanding that it's party time. So
Yeah.
but uh but for me, that's me. I also have a lot of them ask me, hey, do you mind if I put my stuff behind your facade or whatever I have, or event table? You know what, for me, I don't have an issue with it as long as it's at least neat and not just thrown everywhere. I don't have a problem with it. Yeah, absolutely, because
Yeah.
I know we've had plenty of conversation of how much your equipment costs. So the last thing that I would want to happen is somebody comes and breaks one of your cameras or your lens, and then you can't do anything for the rest of the night. You know what I mean? So I don't have an issue with that. I let them do it, because I actually have been to an event where I've had my camera up, and literally somebody looked at it, hit it, knocked it off the tripod, cracked the screen, looked at it, and just kept walking. As I looked at him, looked at me, and was just like, whatever, didn't care.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, oh wow, okay.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
I was like, wow, okay. So I was like,
With words.
right. So I was like, so I picked it up, made sure it still could record, turned it back on to record, and everything. So I think I got a question for you. So to the photographers, are you okay with our watch lights in white during the special dances?
I mean, yeah, honestly, like I said
I
at
got
the, at the
some of
beginning, it sets the mood. Main thing is talking about that stuff like prior to starting your event. Like, I cannot like emphasize that enough. Like, if you know that there's stuff that's going on and that's happened, and it's maybe a themed party, or you know events, maybe a special dances at a wedding, if you know if something like this is coming up, talk about it. Like, if a photographer might be a new person, which is what I was saying, and they might not have any idea of how to actually look at a wedding from the standpoint of like what you guys deal with every single time, right? You guys have a schedule of events and they happen almost exactly the same way with different names here and there, but almost in the same exact way. And with your list of events, if they see that, it's like, hey, this is my setup, lighting is coming. Do you know enough about this? If you don't, maybe let me show you what that looks like really quick during my setup. This is what it's going to look like. I would say maybe show what those wash lights look like um, in white during the special dances, because as far as the exposure, when you're shooting the ambient light versus that changing light, the experienced photographer will make the adjustments on the fly.
That's what I was going to say.
There's going to be really, really quick, and they're going to be like, yep, I got to drop my ISO. Cool. Boom. My exposure is back to being okay, right? I just changed my light sensitivity. Or maybe I'm getting way too much action in the back, and I'm going to adjust my f-stop so that I can get maybe a little more bokeh in the back, and I don't see so much action behind the people that I'm trying to shoot. They'll make that adjustment on the fly. The problem is a lot of those moments happen once, and then they're gone. So if you have that conversation prior to the event, maybe they're shooting with 2 cameras, you'll have that second camera ready for that special dance, right? And you'll have the other camera for everything that's going on prior to that. You're both ready. You don't have to like fight it in the middle of the event, why not? You're both ready to go. You both end up with a good product. You end up setting the mood for your client, which is exactly what you want them to be happy with, is whatever you do for them. And then the photographer, same thing. You end up with the shots that you need, and that lighting will 9 times out of 10 actually look better than just a pop-up flash that's coming from the camera, or maybe the off camera flashes that we have set up around the room. Just because it feels more, the composition is going to be a lot better lit, because you guys, believe it or not, have to adjust lighting according to what you see. You may not just throw in a bunch of white light. Most DJs that I've worked with have good taste in lighting, along with the music, right? So most times, honestly, your lighting is perfectly fine. We just have to make small adjustments. So
yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say, is like, it's, an experience thing. Someone who may not be as experienced as a photographer, that might be a really big challenge for them, having the different lighting, when it's party time, or even with, the wash lights and things like that. But like Jay said, having a little bit more experience and having more than one photographer or videographer with you is helpful also, so you don't miss that moment, because like he said, it only happens once. There is no redo. So,
great question. Great question.
I agree.
And said, I'll let you piggyback off what I was saying before the question, if you would like.
Well, everything you said, you hit it spot on. You know what I'm saying? I like to normally when I'm there setting up, the photographers are already outside with the bride doing family pictures and stuff. So I'll try to wait till they come in. See if they have an itinerary, pass it to them, let them know this is going to be when this is happening, that's happening. That way they could be, ready and waiting to catch those moments, because the wedding planners, I've come across a lot of rude wedding planners, what I'm saying? Event coordinators, they don't like to talk to the DJ for some reason. They'll talk to the photographer, but they won't talk to the DJ, so I will try to communicate with you guys the best way possible. So whatever I have, you have, and it's going to happen. Now, if something, comes up where we're going to skip the cake dance, or we're going to skip the dollar dance, I try to, find one of you guys, just, hey, heads up, we're not going to do this. That way you can be back to where you need to be to catch this next spot, But that's basically, how I do it. Like Chris said, he has his notes. I have mine. A lot of photographers are real good on asking questions. A lot of photographers are good on being in the right spot already.
Right.
Then that falls back on us. And like you said, maintaining that relationship, building that relationship for this event. I just wrote down what you said earlier, and that enlightened me. So I'm gonna try to prep myself to introduce myself to videographers and photographers in advance, before we even get there. That way, it's not a problem. So we're all walking into the situation with one master plan. That's have the greatest event and be as professional as we can be. So when the product comes out, they see you guys are doing your thing, you know, and that becomes from us doing our thing. It all works out, you know. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm actually gonna email somebody as soon as we get finished with this.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
But yeah, you know, I salute you guys. You know, it's what we do is not easy. People think you're just taking pictures. He just spoke 3 different languages to me, you know. Like it's so yeah, it's a big game. People don't understand everything that goes on with it. Now,
Yeah.
like Chris, when Chris said they ask, you know, can they set something behind here and there? I never get asked that, Chris. I never get asked that. I just see
Really?
a pocketbook or something flop over the facade, or hey, I got my bag right here. You know, no, what are you doing? Like, you know, things like that. You know,
Right.
And I'm in the process of upgrading my equipment so you guys can plug in and get that sound. You know, I get asked every single event, hey, can I plug this in? And I'm like, you can try, you know, but
Right.
so yes, I'm definitely going to make some changes, because if it's gonna enhance you guys and make you guys look just as professional, it's only fair, you know what I'm saying, that I do it for myself so we can all help each other out. Because sometimes without word of mouth, that one gig I might need to get by could possibly come from you guys.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It could possibly come from somebody else, you know. So yeah, we really got to be on one accord when these things go down.
Exactly.
And for us in the industry, honestly, that speaks volumes. Because I mean, like I said, Chris could tell you, man, like as far as recommending a DJ, like he's our favorite DJ, like hands down.
Sorry, we're biased. Whatever.
It's all good. That's the man right there. That's the
Not
man.
for anything not for anything other than the fact that like that level of professionalism, right, and that level of detail that he brings to the table, like we have to experience it with anybody else, right? And we have other friends that are DJs, and this is now like to back out any one of them particularly.
They just being nice to me because they beat me up.
But it's like it does speak volumes, right? So when you're in a bind and you have a DJ that you work with, right? And now please don't make it your responsibility to have every cable available to you guys and the videographer, because really technically that's on the videographer, right? To be ready to have that equipment ready to be able to plug in into what you guys are doing us a favor for and allowing us to plug in there, right? That 1/4 inch, that, you know, the XLR or whatever that is, you know, capable of connecting to the recorder is not necessarily the responsibility of the DJ to provide, but of the videographer to have that equipment ready and say, would you mind if I plugged into your, you know, your main output? But it does make it, like you said, to where, hey, you know what? If you need something, do you need me to, right now I'm not doing anything. Do you want me to get your food in the middle of this break right here? Because let me tell you,
that's the one.
DJs don't have a break either, right?
Right.
In the middle of that relationship, right? Hey, you know what? You allow me to put your bag back there. You allow me to hook up to your equipment. The least that I could do as a videographer or as a photographer is look out for you too. Hey, you know what? You haven't had a break. You've been working the whole night. Maybe I can go get you a drink. Do you want anything from the bar? Do you want me to grab you your food while you're back there? Because you're probably not going to be able to walk away for more than 10 seconds, honestly. And that's to check on that cable you thought was loose behind your rack, to literally walk back in front and continue to DJ, because you're going to have 10 people come up to you in the middle of the venue. Hey, can you play this song? Hey, but can you play this song, right? And you're literally fighting off these people, right?
He speaks from experience.
Again, the relationship, like you can't just beat that enough. It really comes down to that. So I think, you know, commending you guys too, because I've yet to come across a DJ that doesn't say, if you can figure out how to plug it in, because not everybody doesn't have a full deck. Some DJs start small, right? You may only have 2 XLRs or 2 1/4 inches that are going out to your mains, and that's all you have. Is on the videographer to learn you guys' equipment also by doing that survey at the beginning of the party and say, you know what, your speakers also have outs. I can plug into that, because whatever you play through that, it also comes out to my recorder. and having that equipment ready for it. So it goes, like I said, it goes a long way for us when you guys do that for us. It really does. So
Yeah.
definitely thank you to all the DJs that do this for their teams.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you now, just use that out. Jay will tell you, I built this nice elaborate rack. I'm not gonna tell you how much I spent, and this past year, um, nobody wants to use it. They're like, we'll just plug it to, we'll just use your out coming off your speaker. And I'm like, but I got a nice rack for you. I even got a shelf that you can put your equipment right here. Don't go on the ground. No, we'll just use this out. I'm like, but, okay. I'm like, okay.
Daggone.
Yeah, so it's all good though. I mean, as long as they get the quality that they need. I mean, it's the same audio. I just, because that's so I got with these two, and that's where I built that rack with them in mind. So he advised me. He's like, hey, make sure you have this. Make sure you do this. And so, yeah, I was kind of depressed when nobody wants to use it. I was like, well, I tried. So, but
Well, maybe we should start adding whenever we say whenever we talk about our lighting and details and the equipment that we have in details, we should add photographer friendly, down there, so they'll know we're the guys that you can come to if you need to
Right.
plug up and do things like that. Because a lot of people don't know,
right.
So if the photographer sees, what I'm saying, your itinerary, your Instagram, what I'm saying, stating everything that you do, promoting yourself, and they see photographer friendly, okay, we can work with this guy.
Right.
So maybe that's something we need to start adding in there.
Right. Well, and that too, and like I said, I think another thing is too is just like I said with this is, again, a lot of people just don't know. Again, photographers are very busy. Same with DJs, very, very, very busy. So
Oh yeah.
it's hard sometimes to where we can just sit down and have this conversation like this. So this is why I want to do this and give their side and their perspective and kind of give a little insight of what they go through so we can have a better understanding. And as you can see, as Tavares, he asks very good questions, just like with the white light, some things that we just might not know and we could be doing, not purposely trying to hurt them or, hinder their product, but we could be doing it and it's hindering their product and we just don't know that. But a quick, like we've been saying all night, is a quick conversation. Communication is the key, and this is how we can make things work. And then too, again, a lot of times you get to that event and sometimes things just don't go right, and I mean you're just one track mind. You're like, I gotta go, I gotta book it, I gotta get it. So sometimes that communication is not there. And that's just events sometimes. So the more that prior to going into the event, the better. So just the general knowledge that, hey, just give them a heads up real quick, like, hey, this is the type of light I have. If you have 5 seconds, 10 seconds in between, you might not have to give a full blown out explanation, but just give a quick, hey, this is the type of light I got. I'm sorry, trying to get rushed. I had a blowout on my trailer or something, or the client wanted me to do something extra last minute. So that kind of pushed my timeline. So I don't really have a lot of time. So, whatever the case may be. So we'll go to our next topic. Let's talk the gallery. And then, he said, I accommodate my photographers because they recommend me when a team work and work well together. So yeah, absolutely. They absolutely do. We'll go into our next topic, galleries. So I know that's the biggest challenge for DJs and photographers. I've ran across, and I've been fortunate to run across some very great photographers. I work with you guys a lot, and here last year I've had photographers who have granted me access to the galleries. So the biggest aspect and the questions that a lot of DJs have that I've come across is, I guess, why is it that photographers don't want to share the galleries with the DJs, or just the photos that would be, I guess, more I guess purposeful to the DJs, like of the dancing for the night, if they got a shot of the DJ. Same thing with the videos of the dancing and stuff?
Honestly, I can go into that. So there's two.
I have
this,
two
I was
perspectives.
gonna say there's two sides to that. So,
Okay.
so you have the personal relationship as one between
Biggest
the
one.
companies that are at this event, right? You have the DJ and you have the videographer and you have the photographer, right? And these three, there could be three companies, I guess.
Right.
The main thing is going to be that relationship. Like I cannot really emphasize that enough. If you know that you guys have a good relationship, is putting out that in the open, right?
Right.
Sometimes they'll say, one hand washes the other. If
Correct.
they provide you with some of this content that you'll need to promote your business because we were both at the event, right?
Right.
Going back to how we help each other at the party, right? That can only
Correct.
end up with a good product if we work together, right? So I've worked with some photographers and some other videographers that have zero problem sharing. I mean, we're an example of that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's stuff that we have, and we've built a relationship on that. The second side of that is the business side, right? Most photographers that do say, well, I can't just give you this stuff, right? Most of the time don't have that relationship with a DJ. The videographers also, they just don't have that relationship with the DJ. So you run into the aspect of we're co-workers in that environment of an event,
Right.
but when it comes to anything else, like I don't know you from anything. So then it just becomes a business transaction. Like anything that we do when there is no relationship, anything that we put out is a product. Even if it's a short, even if it's a short clip, a highlight of the event, you run into the legal issue of whether or not the bridal party allows us to release this information, this video, these photos to anyone without their express consent, right? They have to allow us to give that out to anyone that was there as a vendor, right? Model releases is what you'll hear a lot people talk about. Anybody who's at the party that may or may not want an association with any public entity, right?
Or may not be allowed to show their face,
Right. So things like that, you run into the legal portion of it. Also, like I said, as a business, hey, if you need it, sure, I'll charge you a small amount for it, and then you can have it.
Right.
Which is not unheard of because it's a product. In any company, you have to allow some kind of budget for marketing, and that's basically what it falls under. Okay, cool. You want something to market yourself, you'd have to be able to cover it and pay me as a photographer or videographer for that content because that's what you're paying for. Whereas, again, how I started, if the personal relationship is there, you cover that in more ways than one. Yeah, bring it to the business side of the house, the marketing, right? Well, the marketing wouldn't happen, your production wouldn't happen had it not been for that DJ, had it not been for that, photographer or videographer. If the relationship is there, the money in a way takes care of itself, whether it be through, like Shayna was saying, referrals, whether it's word of mouth referrals, or I give you my business cards to give out and I end up giving you a gift card for one of your clients that comes back to me.
Right.
That pays for itself. You know what I'm saying? Like that relationship does drive that. I don't have to charge you for what I'm already doing for the client if the client is already released that information.
Yeah.
Hey, could I have a copy of that highlight that we did for the wedding on the Johnsons 2 weeks ago? Well, yeah, sure. I'm actually finishing up the highlight in about a day or so. I'll shoot you a copy also. That way you have it at the same time. And hey, but would you mind throwing my logo on it? Honestly, it takes less than 5 seconds for me to throw your logo as long as it's on PNG format on top of the whole highlight. And you know what? I want to throw my logo since I was the person that edited onto the videographer at the very end.
Nothing wrong with that.
We both win from that. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Absolutely no bad side to that story. You're literally promoting yourself, your event, how you put that other events as a DJ. You're promoting me also. That's free advertisement. That's free. That costs money. So in a sense, you both pay each other with the works that you're both doing. So I say all that to say in summary, just this: if you have that relationship with the DJ, with the videographer, with that photographer, actual money shouldn't be like an issue, but the relationship has to be there.
Has to be there, right?
Bro, if it's not there, you're going to deal with videographers and photographers that will require some kind of, monies exchanged for that service. Because in turn, it is a service they're providing for the client. you were never necessarily part of the contract.
Right.
So if it goes out, you have to deal with that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, no, you summed that up pretty good. And it makes sense. What's your take on it, Seth?
It makes sense to me. That's product. That's another sale, you know. And that also enlightened me to reach out to you guys a little bit earlier so we can get back to the bride and get that information released if it's possible, you know. And that way I can go ahead and start prepping to get my package into you guys so I know win or lose, I got a package coming because I'll have you getting pictures of me as well instead of getting everybody in there. And I got a question. People don't want to be seen, like are on parole or something. Like
worst case scenario.
house arrest. Is that what you're talking about? Like, you know.
Well,
No, not really.
Depending on the guests that you have, like we've dealt with a lot of military
members.
members, right? The families, right? You don't always have, you know, members that can be shown on any kind of social media, any kind of photo or anything like that.
I get it. I got what you're saying now.
That's basically it. So dealing with those military folks, sometimes we get to parties that the bride and groom will say, hey, by the way, this particular person, don't take any photos of them.
Right.
They don't come out in any photos in the background.
Right.
So that even when we're developing and editing and stuff like that, they'll have to approve the photos before we like start the editing process.
Yeah.
Before we expose them, they'll go through every photo, making sure that person is not on there. And it's a legal matter. You deal with the Department of Defense sometimes, and you know you cannot have that face anywhere. You cannot show their name.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So
that's on the ball game right there. You're talking about military stuff. I don't know much about military stuff, but if you said they can't be seen, I'll take your word for it, bro.
Well,
I'll play Call of Duty.
Because I actually did a wedding, and I want to say the brother-in-law was military, and when he was coming in, he was going to break uniform because he was in uniform in the ceremony, and he was going to break uniform for the entrance, and I had to make an announcement that there's absolutely no pictures at this time. So, you know, because of that, so it was pretty much a closed entrance. It wasn't a closed reception, but it was a closed entrance. You know, or I think I said it right, closed entrance or something like that. Or what's the word?
Right.
Right. So I had to make that announcement, and people were looking around like what, and you know, so I had to kind of go in more detail about it. You know, like right now we're asking that there's no photography, no videography from any person in the venue due to this reason. If you're found, you know, your phone will be taken and it will be deleted per the bride and groom. Like, it's not coming from me. It's the couple. And once I said that, right, everybody was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So it went out without a hitch. Once he was introduced and, you know, he got back into uniform and up to code, that we made an announcement like, at this time you now can take pictures and video if you would like. So yeah, I get that. Yeah, it makes sense.
Wow.
So yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
that is real.
I haven't read into those situations yet, but I'm glad you told me.
I've also ran into there's a no compete clause with the videographer, or excuse me, photographer. So you can't have like a DSLR camera. So you know how like some DJs, we put up a camera to record because not everybody has videographers. So we'll try to record the dance floor or, you know, whatever. And so there's a no compete clause. So if you have anything that is a DSLR, then you can't have it in there. So it has to be anything but a DSLR. I've ran into that this past year. So that was kind of new. So yeah. So I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was gonna say, is this the request of a videographer or the venue?
No, this is the videographer. It's in their contract when they sign with the client. So yeah. I mean,
and some people are picky like that, honestly, and it's because of content. Like, strictly content.
Right.
They're afraid you're gonna have better content.
The DSLR cameras, some DJs are very savvy, and I will tell
Right.
you, I appreciate the heck out of DJs that are like that when it comes to the equipment.
Right.
Because honestly, hey, you know what? Are you willing to share that material with me? If you have a
Right.
DSLR camera and you have it front and center and you're capturing a wide shot of the entire venue, I might be able to use that material myself if you're willing to share it, and I
Right.
can give you a highlight back already edited.
Exactly.
But it really
Still goes back to relationships.
Yeah, it really depends on the relationship.
Networking.
But
Listen,
yeah,
I'd be honored if any DJ or videographer wants my stuff.
Yes,
I'm like, absolutely, you can have it.
there are some things that are like that you have to be careful with, right? You have non-compete clauses for reasons like a videography. You also have to look at the event center. Some event centers will say, you know, when you come in here, even bride and grooms will tell you, you guys come in the party. While the party's starting, there is a professional photographer and videographer on site. Please leave your phones in your pockets. Enjoy the party, right? And you have to deal with that. Some places are very good about enforcing that. Some places, man, you are trying to shoot your shot and you have nothing but iPhones or Android phones up in the air, you know, literally all over the place. And you have to dance around that in the DJ music and the setup for lighting. So sometimes that positioning gets, you know,
right.
You also don't want to mess your shot up while you're trying to shoot the event for your own purposes, you know? So
exactly.
And telling people to put your phone up while you get ready to take the shot seems like it's fake. Like they're not really enjoying the moment.
I got one better for you. We did a wedding in October, and the what was it? Not a pastor. Why am I blanking?
Oh, yes.
The officiant. Literally, they kissed, and she pulled her cell phone out as they're kissing. She's standing right behind them. Didn't move to the side or anything. Thankfully, we're great at Photoshop. But still, she's right there with her phone as they're kissing. I'm like, really, lady? You couldn't wait just a few minutes? Like,
see, that's a pet peeve of mine. Like, I try to be out of the picture, especially on ceremonies, and I get laughed at a lot because, like, sometimes like I get very OCD, and I'm like, no, I can't be here and there, and like, you know, the venues are laughing at me like it's not that big. I'm like, I don't want to be in the picture. And I'm like, but you're the DJ, like your sound, like we know you're here, and I'm like, I get it, but it's just the ceremony is literally about them, like them. It is all. I don't like.
But if they request you, jump in there.
So yes and no. And I know you really respect your clients. I've known that for as long as I've known you. But I will say sometimes for us, that makes the party because
and receptions you can get me all day long. That's fine, right? Receptions, yeah. You can get me all day. But just ceremony for me, I'm like put me like way in the back somewhere. Put me to the side. I don't want to be nowhere near the cameras. Like my speakers, I want my speakers like not in the picture. And they're like, well, that's not possible. And I'm like, we'll find a way.
Well, I agree. I agree with you, Chris. I agree with you 1,000%. You don't want your speakers shown. It's all about that ceremony, that situation, that mood, that kiss, them holding hands, all of that. That's what you guys really, really get paid to take. You know what I'm saying? Because that's something that's going to be remembered. That is something that's going to be remembered. Nobody wants to know did y'all see those Mackie 12 thumps over there before they kissed? No, nobody cares about that. They want this, right? You know, so yeah, I totally agree. I'm like Chris. I don't want to be seen until it's cocktail hour and reception. Exactly. You know, as far as that go, I'm a part of the camera crew over here or whatever. You know, if I'm standing there, because some areas I have you in the most awkward spot that you might have to be seen, and a lot of times we can't help that. We didn't build the place. You know, right? Yeah. So yeah, anything that, you know what I'm saying, make sure you guys get what you need, because that right there is important. Exactly. You know, that is very important. And why would the person pull that camera out right then and there when they're kissing? That's a monumental moment. You know, it ain't just anybody else. Anybody could have took that picture, but why would you do it right there?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's
and any photographer and videographer will tell you they appreciate that. And oh man, I can tell you, Chris probably remembers this instance too. There was a vineyard that we had a wedding at one time. I forget what year it was. I think it was 2017. That comes to mind.
Yeah, I
And
think
it was
so.
right in front of a lake, but everything on this
Oh
lake
man.
was on a decline. So if you can't imagine having to set up right next to the water with bugs and everything else there as a DJ,
Hot as all get.
hot at middle of the day, it was actually set up for like
Listen.
noontime. He's having flashbacks.
Listen.
I get it, and that's the piece that I don't know that every photographer or videographer really realizes everything that you guys go through to set stuff
Right.
like that up and stay out of the way during that ceremony. Because yes, we need those really wide shots sometimes, and you know if you're just outside of the trail of chairs or benches, you get caught in between that, right? So having you guys
Exactly.
completely away from it in the back, somewhere where it's nowhere to be seen, but you guys are there because the audio is clear cut while you're there. It's huge for us. It really is. Like Shayna was saying, like a camera dead smack in the middle of the kiss would probably one of the most monumental parts of a wedding. That's a big foul, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to see that. Like I'm sure
Right.
the bride and groom will forever remember that.
Oh,
Right.
So
she does.
so
Right. Yeah.
that's huge for us on our end. Huge.
Right. Listen, this wedding he talks about, right? The wedding was great. The wedding was great, right? Don't get me wrong, wedding was great. But I think I met my maker that day. Not even lying.
Poor thing.
To get away out of that picture. So I went out there and they said they had a extension cord, right? I picked that extension cord up. It was bare wire showing. It was already plugged up. I got shocked. I think I met my maker that day. Listen, the priest
so alive.
the priest was right there. I think it was a sign because the priest was right there, and he was the first thing I saw. So I was like, that was a sign. I said, okay, well, yeah,
Yep.
that
You was gonna have a wedding and a funeral in the same day.
Listen, man, great wedding though. Great wedding. It was a good wedding though.
One thing about being outside, polo shirts and heat don't mix.
Oh no, I was in a full suit because it was originally everything was originally supposed to be inside. I was in a full suit.
Oh, so you was hot.
Oh yeah, I was hot.
Man.
So go back to what we were talking about. So as a DJ, get sidetracked a little bit, but go back. So as a DJ, right? So if we don't have that relationship with the photographer, right? How would we go about approaching you, as a photographer and asking for that? Because again, let's just give an estimate. How many photos do you typically go through when you're editing a wedding? Let's just say a wedding.
Depends. The wedding, let's start with a short wedding. It really depends because it could be an elopement, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's something really small, you're looking at maybe 30 minutes to an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. It's an elopement. So it's short and sweet and to the point. To like your bigger weddings where you're there the full day.
Let's go with that one.
So let's say you go to a wedding on a full day, you might end up with 1,500 photos, 2,000 photos, and you're culling, meaning going through all of them and arranging, categorizing the photos as you go through. You're easily looking at 2,000-3,000 photos, and that's combined. You have most of the time 2 photographers. If you have one, or you have 2 cameras, you might end up with the same amount, just 2 different cameras. And it is from every single situation you experience there, right? You're trying to capture the bride getting ready, the groom getting ready, the parents, those special people that came that day for that particular reason, for those people that are either getting married or, whatever have you, an anniversary or, whatnot. You end up with that much material and you still have to go through all of that, edit it, categorize it, and then present it to the couple, and potentially do additional reviews after.
Okay. So we'll give an estimate of anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 to 6,000, right, photos that you have to go through and edit.
Right.
So roughly, how long does that take you? What time period does that take you to do everything from start to finish of going through, picking the ones you want, edit everything, and
honestly, for delivery, you're looking at anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. I think is the normal turnaround time for most photographers and videographers.
Right.
But you're still gigging. You still have other gigs on top of this, right?
Yeah, and you've got to order actual hard albums or USB drives, however it is that you're going to deliver it, prints, you name it. So you're juggling all those tasks on top of getting new inquiries and having appointments and other events as well.
Right. And then we'll just tack on life events, right? So now
kids, school, work.
Exactly. So now you get let's just say you've had 3 events within the past 3 weeks, and you don't have that relationship with 3 DJs, and you have 3 DJs now who are inquiring about photos, right? So how much extra does that put on your workload?
It really doesn't.
Okay.
It really goes down to, let's say you don't have a relationship, right? Let's approach it from that angle with these DJs. As long as you're organized, honestly, you're already doing the work.
Right.
It just goes down to the business side of the house.
Okay.
What are you charge for something like that, right?
Right.
You have 2 different sides of the house there, right? That you're competing with is the personal use of the wedding party that hired you for the event, and then there's the commercial use for the DJ that you're looking at purchasing for marketing and whatnot. So 2 totally different approaches.
Right.
The reasoning behind it is just exactly what it stands for. One's for personal use. This family is going to use it for them. It's personal to them. They might share with family members, right? But there's no gain from it.
Right.
As a people, they're not gaining anything from it other than they get to cherish something that they capture for that day. Then you have the business side of the house, the commercial side of the house, right? These things are going to make you money in one way, shape, or form. So you're purchasing a commercial asset to either push for your marketing or to give it to a company to use for your marketing. So that translates to you guys making money off of it. So the price is going to be different. Every photographer is going to scale it differently. One-time use it one time. You print it as many times as you want to, but it's still just that one-time personal use. I use it as a commercial asset. I'm looking at billboards, social media, printed material, right? All of that stuff. Where typically we'll be looking at, depending on what it is, one photo upwards of starting on the low end, $250. Just shooting a number out there. Typically you see people that will charge you, hey, $250 for this one photo of you over your deck DJing at a party, right? And so people might look at it like, man, $250 just for one photo. You look at bigger commercial companies, you're looking at $5,000 for one photo. And it's not the photo so much that you would look at as much as is what's the intent for the commercial use of that photo. How big are you going to blow up that photo? We're talking like little 4x6 little handout, or are we talking like there's a billboard in the middle of the highway that I'm putting my advertisement in up there, where I'm gonna have to spend more time editing that photo to look for blemishes, to look for the little details that on a 4x6 you're not gonna catch.
Right.
On a giant billboard, it's gonna be a big, what in the world is that on his mouth?
Or something in your nose. That happens all the time. Right? Oh my God.
So there's more that goes into that. So as far as like adding more to us, I don't necessarily think it adds much more than that one edit. You're spending a couple of hours in the editing room to edit that one photo for you guys.
Yeah.
Well, of course, a little longer, but I don't think it's much.
Right.
On that one gig, you have, or different 3 gigs, like you mentioned, there's 3 different DJs that want 3 different things. The amount of labor you're putting into the wedding package itself, it's nothing compared to what goes into that. One job by itself, like I said, maybe a few hours just because of the intent of what the photo is gonna have.
Gotcha.
I have something to add to that. It's not inappropriate for anybody to ask for the photos or to get whether they're paid for or not, or if they're just given, at the discretion of the photographer, videographer, or whoever. But think about it this way too, is like, we're there for work for hire, right? The bride and groom or the parents, whoever hired us for the event. how you think that it would make them feel that the photographer or videographer gave the DJ or other vendors photos of them working, but they haven't actually got their photos yet.
Right.
That might be distasteful in a sense.
Right.
Me personally, I don't release anything to anybody until my client gets
exactly
what they paid for,
exactly
because I think it's just frowned upon. You know,
exactly.
like you paid me. Some people pay hundreds, but realistically, you're paying me thousands of dollars to provide service and products for you, and here I went behind you and gave this person, whether it was paid or not, gave this other person these photos of your event, and you haven't even seen anything yet.
No, you bring a good point. That's see, and this is one thing. I'm glad you said that. So even if I get a photo, I always make sure that the client has posted or the photographer has posted before I post anything. I don't ever post it until I go on a photographer or the client's page first. And then I'll like, oh, okay, they posted, they did it. Okay. Now they've gotten theirs. Now I'm going to post mine. And that brings me to another point. So, you know, and I've sat and talked with you guys, and because, you know, my weak point is social media. That's my weak point. I just don't care for social media. I hate social media, right? I know that's my weak point, and I'm doing better at it. So what I do now, and this is a two-part. I have a question for you after this. So what I do now when I get photos, if they come from the company, I tag them in everything, right? And then even if it's my photo, I tag all the vendors, and then I even tag the photographer, but I let them know like, hey, these are not the official pictures. For the official gallery, please follow this photographer. How do you feel about that? Because my thing is, I don't want anybody seeing my photo, even if it's a good photo. I don't want anybody seeing my photo and thinking it's the photographer's, or I don't want to impersonate the photographer of the event, but I also want to give credit to the team. So the photographer, the videographer, you know, the caterers, if I get that information, any of the vendors, that information that I get, I want to give them credit for being a part of that team, because without them, none of that day would not happen. That event would not happen. It wouldn't have gone on. So, you know, I will post a photo, and then I still will, you know, tag the photographer, the videographer, but I will put under there a little note, a disclaimer saying these are not the official photos of the event. For the official photos, please go to the photographer or the videographer's page. Go follow, give them a like and a follow. How do you think that is would you if you got tagged in that? And I get it, sometimes they might not even look at it. They might just see a photo and be like, why am I getting tagged in this photo? This not my photo. And I'm hoping that they go through and read everything and they see that disclaimer, right? I'm hoping that they read it. But if you got tagged, how would you feel about that as a videographer and a photographer?
I mean, it's a courtesy. You don't have to do any of that, because to me, honestly, I would be very thankful, because you're at least, like I said, you're promoting us as a company, right? And you're also putting the fact that these aren't necessarily official photos. So this is a party that happened. So you can release that and still give the people that were there, or the other people that are there, say, hey, the official photos haven't been released. They're going through the process, right? So that's just a courtesy, honestly.
Right.
Double-edged sword, though, because of, you know, like you mentioned earlier, you have those people that have a non-compete clause. This is part of it. Sometimes they'll find themselves tagged in material because they were present, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't been given the opportunity to really showcase their product that they gave to the client, right?
Right.
To be their best, you know, their best thing. So they're not ready for it. So in essence, you know, most people take about 10 or 15 seconds. After that, you lose a client. Mm-hmm. When it comes to any kind of social media. Oh, cool, their name. You go to their website, or you go to their social media location, and none of that material is there, and they're looking for a wedding. Well, it's not there. Next, right? It's already gone. It's already gone. So you may have the videographers that have that non-compete clause for that reason, or they'll say things like, hey, if you don't mind, I just kind of wait until I post these things, and either the photos that I gave you to use, because we have that relationship, or anything that you put out there with our stuff, just kind of give us a couple of weeks so we can put this out there, so that when you do promote that, we both benefit from it.
Right.
You'll have you guys on there in the best possible way that you can look, because the photo has been processed, versus there's a random photo of the photographer in the background at work. It's cool and they know and it's there, but some people might take it as, hey, well, I don't appreciate that because I wasn't ready for it.
Mhm.
That sort of thing. It really would come down just to communication between
Yeah.
the DJ and photographer and videographer.
Right. Okay. So yeah, and like I said, I asked that question because I know others might have that same question when we tag vendors, because my main thing, like I said, is trying to incorporate everybody on that team. And right now we're talking with photographers, so I just want to make sure it's not in any kind of way of disrespect to the photographers, especially for what you do. Because as DJs, it's hard for us to get content, so we try to put content and stay relevant, how we can. And I guess that would be more of try to figure out what I guess kind of what we could do, other content to put out instead of that picture or those pictures from the event. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So. Well, so we're about at an hour and 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys, take the floor and give your last comments on whatever you would like. And then, matter of fact, we'll start with DJ NuffCed, and I'm going to let him take the floor and give his last comments. And then we'll start with our guests for the day, and we'll let you get your last comments. But NuffCed, we're going to go ahead and start with you.
Well, you guys enlighten me on a lot of things, and I'm extremely happy to meet you guys tonight. As I upgrade my equipment, the jewels that you guys dropped tonight, I will be sharing with others. Probably just give them the link so they can watch this video and hear it from the horse's mouth. You guys aren't horses, but you get what I'm saying.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into speaking to photographers and videographers ahead of time, especially for somebody who's familiar with the venue already. That way I will know what to expect and they'll know what to expect, and we all can get together. The friendly wedding planners and event planners, I'll get with them, to see if you guys have exactly what I have. That way everybody's on the same page. Yeah, I learned a lot tonight. I really did.
Oh, great.
I'm gonna take all of that information and start applying it to my business. I'm gonna talk with Chris a little bit more because it seemed like Chris is from the start of this thing. Chris has had it, locked down. He retains information a lot better than I do when it comes to it.
I just get yelled at a lot.
I would get to the situation and be like, oh, what did Chris say? So. But yeah, you guys rock, man. You guys rock. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll all eventually get it all figured out,
Yeah, let's stay in touch. I love that.
Well, at the bottom of the screen was just my email. What was that website? Yeah, that was the website. That was the website. I'll drop the rest of the information in the chat.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. And then we'll close it out with you two.
What you got?
Well, I just say, everybody involved and everybody watching, just build those relationships because, we're teammates, and everybody's going to get a great product at the end. There's no reason to be ugly to anybody. I know everybody's got different opinions and things, but we're here to work together. We're all in the entertainment business, and let's have fun. Let's make the best of it.
Like DJ Nuff said, always remember your little wristband, WWCD. What would Chris do? Just throwing it in there.
You have to trademark that.
Definitely.
I have been to events and all of a sudden I see a sticky situation. The first thing I do is, oh God, Chris, look what they done did now. So,
So, yeah,
it happens. It happens.
Like I said, and thank you for having us in the show today, for
Yeah.
sure.
Absolutely.
But like Shayna was saying, I definitely, we're on the same page always with that. Definitely talk to your videographers, your photographers, see the
Yes.
events. Use your communication skills with nothing else. When you're interviewing your clients, bring that up. Hey, do you have the photographer's information? I would love to call them and connect with them early, during the planning stages of your events, and then make that connection, just to kind of make your events easier to kind of travel with. Like Shayna was saying, it is a team sport, and I think we all win at the end when things like this just happen to connect and happen to work out really well.
Absolutely. So I would like to, thank everybody for coming on today. For those of you who have joined us, I thank you guys for joining us. And for those of you who don't know, this will be my last live podcast from the United States for a year. So I will be back in 2024, but I will be active on podcasts, and my man DJ NuffCed trying to get me up and running on Twitch, as far as DJing. So I will be active there as soon as I get up and running. But I just appreciate everybody coming out. And again, this was awesome. I appreciate Jay, Shayna, and Ced. I appreciate you coming out. I couldn't have had a better last podcast, and I wish everybody great success in 2023. And until next time.
You've been listening to the Ultimate Entertainment Solutions Show. If you enjoyed our show, be sure to tell a friend. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. See you next time.